Ah, Toy Story. Out of all of Pixar's franchises, it is definitely their most successful one, at least for now. It was the movie that really put Pixar as a force to be reckoned with in the animation world, and each of their sequels produced more money than their predecessors. Also, every Toy Story movie has been praised by film critics and general audiences alike. Although the fourth one did ruffle some feathers among animation fans for being unnecessary, and then there's Lightyear, which is a spin-off that went wrong in so many ways. Despite all of this, however, Toy Story continues to be an IP that Disney sees as a major cash cow. So rather predictably, when the company had a series of failures last year, they went ahead and announced that Toy Story 5 is in the works. Now, as someone who is a huge fan of Pixar, especially as of recently, I was feeling, oh, okay, but why should this exist? I mean, the fourth movie already had the controversy of being unnecessary, and now you want to go ahead and extend the story even more? What kind of story is left to tell with Woody, Buzz, and everyone else in this world that warrants a fifth movie? Well, that's what I'm going to speculate for today's video. So given how Toy Story 3, and especially 4 ended, it's unsurprisingly difficult to even think of an answer for this. The first Toy Story tackled Woody's insecurity of not being Andy's favorite toy. Toy Story 2 tackled Woody's background as merchandise to a formerly popular franchise. Also, it covered the idea of toys seeking immortality in spite of having their kids outgrowing them. Toy Story 3 shows us this scenario come to life and how Woody and the toys respond to it. Finally, Toy Story 4 covers what happens when a toy's purpose, specifically Woody's purpose, is completely fulfilled. Spoiler alert, Woody finally learns to live out his own life. Now, Toy Story 4 is such a controversial movie among animation fans that I want to create a whole video dedicated to that film alone, but regardless of what you think, there's no denying that the writers were able to stretch Woody's story specifically much farther than anyone expected, and in my opinion, it kind of worked. While the third movie was a rather definitive end to the toys' time with Andy, Disney could easily tell more stories with the toys' time with Bonnie, and for a while they did. But with Toy Story 4, its ending felt very definitive. Any content that we got after the movie were all just Disney Plus shorts that frankly I could care less about. That's the problem that Toy Story 5 has to work around. With this in mind, I was able to think of two possible storylines where the movie can go. First, Toy Story 5 can be about Woody's past once more. While the second movie did cover this aspect of Woody's background, it really only showed what Woody was as a piece of merchandise from a larger franchise. However, we never really learned about Woody's personal history. We know that he was born, or manufactured depending on how you want to look at it, around the 1950s. We also know that Woody was Andy's toy in the 1990s and 2000s, in the first 3 Toy Story films. That leaves 40 years of Woody's history left unexplained. So I can see Toy Story 5 finally answer what happened to Woody during these years. How did Andy acquire Woody in the 90s when Woody is a 50s toy? Now, the simple explanation could be that Woody belonged to Andy's mother or father. I mean, we never saw Andy's father in all of these films. Maybe it's time they finally introduce him? While it is a simple explanation, that premise alone can be turned into a story that is worthy of a whole movie. In my mind, I can see the movie start off with Woody enjoying the status quo he has been living post Toy Story 4, but after experiencing this life of a lost toy, he begins to question what his life was like before Andy and Bonnie. Maybe he gets an unlocked rush of memories from something, I don't know. This would in turn cause Woody and Bo to go and search for answers about his past, causing him to reunite with Buzz, Jessie, and the other toys. Together, they travel and find the answers that Woody seeks to finally figure out who he was, who he is, and who he should be. I don't know about you guys, but that does sound like a plausible premise that is also interesting. I mean, who doesn't want to learn more about Woody's backstory? Also, this storyline leaves quite a lot of room for introducing new toys to freshen up the franchise a bit, and definitely a lot of emotional moments, which is a mandated element for Pixar films. That being said, the one major flaw I do see in this premise is how it would end. If the movie does go with the storyline, and Woody does find out that he was the toy of Andy's father, then the logical conclusion for him is that he should return to Andy. While reuniting with Andy and potentially becoming a toy for his kid would be an emotional moment, assuming if he has one by this point, this would undermine the message of Toy Story 4, where Woody finally decides to put himself over the needs of a child. That's a message that is rather strong and important because of what Woody did in the first 3 Toy Story films. But if the 5th movie reverts to the message of the original 3, then it would really make Toy Story 4 much more of an oddball than it actually is. Since there is an underlying contradiction in messaging and character arcs with this premise, I can also see Toy Story 5 take the exact opposite premise. The movie could also be centrally focused on Buzz and the other toys who stay with Bonnie by the end of the 4th movie. Given that 7 years has passed since Toy Story 4 came out, by the time Toy Story 5 comes out, there is a chance that it will age up its human characters. Maybe Bonnie will grow to a point where she doesn't need her toys anymore, but she's not old enough to actually donate them, so she's still keeping them in storage or something along those lines. By this point, everyone would want a new kid to take care of, so the toys themselves would go out in the world in search of a new kid. And with this storyline, they could easily reunite with Woody as well, who by this point would be adjusted to the lost toy lifestyle. Woody would then agree to help the toys to find new kids, but over the course of the film, they would see how much Woody has grown as a lost toy, and they themselves might want to adopt that new lifestyle. So this premise definitely keeps the message of the 4th movie intact, and it has room for its jokes and emotional moments too, although I will admit that this storyline has less definitive plot points in my mind compared to the first idea that I had. Like, what will the toys do before they finally realize they are better off on their own, for example? Also, a big problem with both of these storylines is the lack of an antagonist. While it's not absolutely necessary for a Pixar movie to have an antagonist for it to be good, every Toy Story movie had one, and each of them were a key reason why they were as good as they are. There could be some way to add an antagonist or some antagonistic force in both of these premises, but I can't really think of any as of right now. Ultimately, the fact that I can't think of a decent potential storyline for Toy Story 5 is a major red flag for how this franchise seems to have overstayed its welcome. That's something that is hard for me to admit. I mean, I love Toy Story as a whole. All 4 of their movies somehow add something new to Woody's character in a way that feels meaningful. But like I said before, the 4th movie felt like a very definitive conclusion to Woody's arc. Trying to make an epilogue or extension to this ending doesn't feel like it warrants a whole new movie that cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make. Although, that being said, I had this exact same belief when Toy Story 4 was initially announced, and against all odds, I somehow enjoyed that film quite a lot more for what it is. So it is very much possible that Pixar has an ace up their sleeve to extend this franchise at least one last time until another one of their franchises eclipses it, especially given one of the main writers of the earlier Toy Story films will be the director of the 5th movie. Nobody knows these characters more than Andrew Stanton and others involved in this film. So while I can't think of any possible new storylines, who's to say that they can't think of one? Admittedly, I'm not the best person to give potential ideas for Toy Story 5. Although, you guys might be. If you guys have any ideas for what Toy Story 5 could possibly be about, let me know all about them down in the comments below, and please give this video a like, and subscribe for more content like this. With all that being said, thank you all for watching this video. I hope you all have a great day. See you in the next one.